have you had times where you question your involvement in music?
Oh yeah.
How did you battle that? How do you face it? Oh, you quit?
I quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I joined. We formed the band SOiL in '97, and I quit in 2004.
Yeah.
And was out of music. Didn't have any desire to get back in it again. I come from a very small town in Indiana, back in the States. That's where I was born and raised. One stoplight, one cop car size town, like 3,000 population.
Yeah.
More cows than there were people. So I grew up in that small town mentality of you knew everybody, everybody was kind.
You sound like Larry Bird just explaining his upbringing in Indiana as well.
Everybody was very nice. Yeah. Everybody was very considerate. And you grew up in that, and all of a sudden you're in an industry that is as disgusting as music industry is. Yeah. Especially back then when you had 30 some major labels, and the industry was still at the peak of its health at that point in time. And there was probably, 50, it's probably better than 50% of the people out there had a job because of what their last name was, and not necessarily because they had a passion for the music itself. And so you had to deal with these people, and it crushed me. I don't say crushed me. It was hard to deal with. Yeah. And I grew up taking people at face value, taking people for their word, and all of a sudden you're in an industry that everybody is just out for themselves. Yeah. The majority of people were out for themselves. And I finally had enough, and I had to walk away. And I quit music in 2004 and had no plans on getting back in. When I quit, different labels, different A&R guys from different labels contacted me to ask me to write with this baby band or that new band or whatever, or join this or that. And I gratefully declined all those things because I just had no desire to get back in. And the only reason I did get back in is because these guys, Drowning Pool, got a hold of me, and they were my best friends in the business. But yeah, I've had those moments, and I walked away. At the time, it was time, for me at that point, it was much easier to because how disgusting the industry was. Yeah. It was easier for me to finally say I've had enough, and I've gotten to experience a little bit of what I sought out to do, and it's time to go home and be a full-time dad and husband. But like I said, the Drowning Pool guys got a hold of me, and then Dave's mom. The icing on the cake is when Dave's mom called me and was like, "Yeah, if anybody's going to do it, David wanted to be you." Wow. And I was like, "All right, yeah, can't say no to Mrs. Williams." Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask you what exactly, rejuvenated your passion and made you take the gig, but I guess...
I mean, from the time, my parents talk about me being a kid, still in diapers, size kid, and running around the house on my tricycle, singing to my dad's music, whether it was CCR or Led Zeppelin or... there was always music going on in the house. And so I always had that desire to do something musically. And my mom was very musical herself. She was very, piano. So there was always something musical going on in the house. And so it was a part of my existence, and it was a part of what I wanted to. It was part of who I was and what I wanted to be since that kid, as my parents would say. And, so when I walked away, there was still that. There's no getting away from that. So so when I walked away, the bug was still biting me. The itch was still there. Yeah. But the desire not to deal with the type of people that you had to deal with. I'm not saying everybody I dealt with was that way. There was good people in the industry. We were signed to J Records. There were good people in J Records. James Diener being one, phenomenal. Yeah. Music mind and passion for music, but you also had to deal with people, whether it was managers or, and again, not all managers. So if you're one of my past managers, I'm not necessarily talking about you, so don't email me some nasty shit. But you did deal with, sometimes it wasn't even your own manager; it was dealing with a manager of another band, or just there were people that sucked the life out of it, but that bug still was chewing at you, even though I walked away. So, but like I said, Drowning Pool was the only situation that definitely was like, yeah, I could do that.
I see.
I could do that because I was good with who I was surrounded by.
And
like when we shared the road together, whether it was a festival in Europe, whether it was a show and a set of shows in the States, no matter where we were in the world, when our paths crossed, it was always a great time. It was always just fun, and there was a brotherhood amongst Drowning Pool and SOiL. That because Dave was a big fan of SOiL, and it was actually because of Dave that the rest of the guys were familiar with me, because Dave was a big fan of the stuff that I was doing in SOiL. And so it was because of that relationship that they really were the only group of guys that could have pulled me in at that point in time.
Yeah. So, how did you, throughout the years, and, we, obviously we mentioned how toxic the environment within the music industry can be.
Yes.
And I assume that after you got back into music, you still had to face a lot of that as well. How did you, taught yourself to maybe neglect that or overcome it and not let it?
I fired it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good lesson.
At the end of the day, it's just like you're talking about crew earlier, and making sure the right people are surrounding you.
Yeah.
You wake up one day and you realize that actually you're the one making the decisions. That these people are, as far as managers,
absolutely,
as far as managers, booking agents, business managers, because there's so many people behind the scenes that it's mind-numbing how many people have their hand in your pocket.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're working for you.
Sure.
And so if you don't like the situation you're in, change it. And when we got together in Drowning Pool, we had a house cleaning. And to make sure that we were surrounding ourselves with the people that we could count on, and that we could believe the noise that was coming out of their open mouths. And it's just that. That's how you combat it, is just by saying no. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to deal with that type of person. That person can kick rocks. We're self-managed now. Luckily, we've been able to, again, thanks to people keeping us around, we're at a position now in our careers where we can self-manage, and we can make the decisions that we want to make. And we know what the right decisions are, because we're not being told
what to do.
We're not having this option boxed up and made to look really nice. We know what the options are at face value and below. Yeah. So we're able to make the decisions that are right for us at this point in our life, instead of counting on somebody to tell us the right decision, instead of relying on somebody to point us in the right direction. We know what the directions are. So we're lucky enough to be in that situation. But no, it's a matter, you combat it by just
taking control. Yeah. That's such a good lesson, actually, just, understanding your influence and utilizing to your benefit.
The only people that you can in this industry, and we're lucky enough, we're with SBG Records now. Shan over at SBG he's amazing. And everybody that works there, Hannah, everybody is amazing. But we're there because, again, we handpicked that. Yeah. We met with different people, and there was a lot of great options, and we went with Shan, and there's been no regret. Shan Davis, right? Yes.
Amazing guy.
Yes, absolutely. And I can call him about any number of things that doesn't have to be music related.
Yeah.
And he's always there to help. And he's a great soul. And you can surround yourself by those people by making the decisions, by keeping the decisions themselves.
I think this is, such a great perspective and indication how, because how many, bands and artists in the music are making decisions based on names, and, I want the big name.
Especially back in the day.
Yeah.
They had to have, you had to do a video with this guy.
Yeah.
And this guy had to do this mix, and you had to have this other guy do this other mix.
Yeah.
And you paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for a video because this guy was producing the video or directing the video. Yeah. It was way more so back then than it is now, that that you had to have the name associated with the mix or the recording or the nowadays people are recording albums on their computer, in their own home. So, but back in the day, you had your label was spending your money like it was water, man. I remember the first music video I did with SOiL, the song Halo.
Oh yeah.
They spent something like $350,000 on that music video.
Jesus.
I think in my time with Johnny Cole, we haven't spent more than like $12,000 on a music video, and that was expensive nowadays. But yeah, they spent like $350,000 on the first video, like $300,000 on the Unreal video. And like $250 on the. It kept getting better. It's still bullshit, but it kept getting better. Because you had to have this name and all this crap on it. But it's better nowadays, definitely.
Yeah, if you're not working with this name, it means that you're degrading.
They would give you shit like people at the radio station cared. They didn't care. They're playing what they're told to play.
Exactly.
But at the time, you're going, okay.
Yeah.
You don't know.